17 round difference. They certainly need to find their first bit of confidence, find their feet, and get a win here in APAC South 2022 Stage 1. Let's load into Bank and kick off.
Let's do it. And look, loving to see Bank being a persistent kind of regular pick here in APAC South. We've already seen quite a few games on it, so I think this is a good choice from Direwolves. We've already seen a big game from them on this map against Chiefs, as referenced on the desk. So I think, yeah, playing into a bit of a comfort zone here is definitely going to suit them, because it's one thing to be expected to win, but of course those are the games that you have to win, right? Like, these are the points that you need to bank up so you can secure those spots for playoffs.
So it would certainly be some points away from Direwolves here. I believe we saw some stats on Twitter from Sprabuni. I think is the correct pronunciation, and he does a lot of stats, and he calculated that if Direwolves win this match in regulation, I'm pretty sure that that means they have a 99% probability of making it to the APAC playoffs. That is insane. Direwolves will certainly have their eyes on the prize. They've made it to playoffs many, many times in 2021, but never made it through to a major. They were looking to change that this time around. Ying, I mean, I guess that's one way to curb some chaos from Direwolves.
Yeah, look, maybe it's something they know that the Fury roster love to lean into. Personally, can't quite recall too many, Ying matches with Fury, but at the end of the day, look, comfort ban or just, I don't know, straight target ban. I've seen it used a little bit on executes for lockers in particular, or maybe even on top floor. But regardless, I think Direwolves probably sitting fairly comfortable on this one, and a team in the past that has generally handled high pressure games fairly well, to be honest. And I think that's just a lot down to their team chemistry.
I'm going to go back to the quote that we had from Onigiri of Elevate, who were the #1 team in APAC South last year in 2021. And with all the roster changes, there was a lot of, I get mixed expectations out of where the teams would land this year. Onigiri told me he thinks Direwolves is the most likely team to be #1 in Stage 1. So far, seen his prediction be correct. Let's see if they can dismiss Fury. 3 points here would be great for Direwolves, and they would basically be locking in their playoffs content from here on out.
Absolutely would. So what can Fury do here against Direwolves? Of course, there is always that storyline as well, where if you are a team that has your back against the wall, like Fury have very low expectations on them at this point. It's just more about making some small steps forward, figuring out how they can make things better and at least just get some more rounds. I mean, it's one thing to look for a map win, but they've even struggled getting a lot of rounds in the last couple of Playdays. So I think there is always that kind of danger, right? There is the pressure on Direwolves. I would say very little pressure on Fury.
Oh,
and this is a bold play from the get-go from Direwolves.
And it does not work out whatsoever. A clean sweep for the Fury boys. As everyone rushing from Direwolves, Electrical proves to be their death. ED can finally get one with the DMR, but Lycolis is in such a great position. ED is walking into a crossfire, gets him. Now this is a 2v3 with so much time left. I say this is doable for Direwolves.
Definitely doable. They have some good positions as well. And Fury going to do their best to hold back. That's Harambe falling, so now all on the shoulders of ED. And he's going to get tagged up. Duck closes that out. And Fury, from the get-go, they bank round 1.
Pun intended, I sure hope, Raven. We've seen Direwolves go for these rushes before. I'm pretty sure, was it against IG last week? Was it against the Chiefs? I don't exactly remember. When they played Bank, it must have been their game against the Chiefs. They went for this exact rush, and I believe it was in the first round, and I believe it went just about as good as this one did.
Yeah, there was a bit of a botched kind of breach entry on that attempt, but no, even this time where it was a bit cleaner, yeah, no shot. It didn't look good from the get-go. They lost 3 at that double door, and yeah, it was kind of all over at that stage. But look, credit to ED. Had a couple of big picks that maybe made it look like Direwolves could have had an inkling. But I think what's really important of the outcome of that round is Fury getting the first round on the board. That's got to feel good for them, even though, you know, it was just shutting down a bit of a rush. It doesn't matter. Like, I think for them, it's about building on positives and trying to just gather some momentum.
No doubt, no doubt. Especially considering they're yet to go downstairs to what many would consider the primary bomb site of this map. And I wonder if that is perhaps related to the Hibana slipping through the ban phase. If Direwolves were attacking downstairs, I mean, Kaid is banned. Hibana's opening every single hatch and really putting that pressure onto the defenders without too much trouble whatsoever.
Reinforcing the window.
Absolutely right. Direwolves now, hopefully, a structured attack out of this round. Nothing that's too brave. Not 2 rounds in a row, at least. Maybe that was the play from them. You know, maybe they just thought that they would open up with a bit of a rush, and maybe that would kind of play into a psychological game, so to speak, right? If they pull that off against Fury, who's already struggling, kind of puts them in a dark mindset, so to speak.
Definitely makes Fury hyper cautious of the rush. And so if Direwolves want to get early map control later on, perhaps Direwolves are going to be focusing more on the rush and less on denying a lot of that map control from Direwolves. Very repel-centric at the moment from the Wolf Pack, but really it's Dark who's in a power position here for Fury. Holding on to this stock hallway, so many ADSs. I believe he's got 3 there. On top of that, Assyria Gate on the window. It's going to be tough to clear him out.
Also, of course, in control of those magnets as well, so he really has everything in his disposal to try and hold this off. It is such a critical position. We see it held so often from teams defending this site, and there it is. Beautiful flush from Direwolves, clearing out all of that utility, counting it perfectly so that frag grenade isn't snatched. And look, it's taken about 90 seconds to get to this stage, but a pretty important step in this attack from Direwolves.
Credit to him. They managed to clear out that position without losing too much. Now, yes, a lot of nades, a lot of util gone, but at least they take the ground for it and they have time to work from here on out. Okay. An aggressive gas babe. Jackie Wu, though, survives it. Dark in a dangerous position in the hallway, but doesn't want to over-peak.
A bit of a holding pattern at this stage, Dev, but as I say that, Pika has managed to find Lycolis on that opening pick. It's come pretty late in the round now, about 45 seconds to go. Direwolves fairly surrounded around the site, so Fury's gonna have to try and hold off a bit of the onslaught. They've been able to burn a lot of these toxic babes, which has certainly slowed down Direwolves, and that's going to help with that trade. But 30 seconds starts to put the pressure back onto Direwolves now for this execute.
Man advantage for the attacking side. Breach and Repel available to them. Fury have just 3 players, but they can sit patiently. You can see Mopi here, holding the long line of sight with the DMR. And Harambe goes in, has the diffuser in pocket. Is the denial there? Hajime goes down. Pika finding another kill on for the round. Mopi cleaned up, and, well, the entire Fury fall apart as the execute comes through from Direwolves.
Really good execute from Direwolves in the end. Look, they used every second possible to make sure that they were set up. They had the right crosses covered. They just had their positioning down pat, so when they went for that execute, you saw it, Fury just absolutely crumbled. It was tough for them to be able to get into an advantageous position to deny plan or do really anything to stop that attack progressing. So a really good answer back from Direwolves in that round.
But Fury aren't going to linger too much. They'll go back down to the basement. We haven't seen lockers and CCTV as of yet from them, and typically this is regarded as the strongest site. I like that we've got some plant denial in the form of the Yokais. Of course, Echo probably wants to remain hidden during this preparation phase so that Direwolves doesn't 6-pick, or rather re-pick, onto the IQ. During the entire prep phase, attackers can now re-pick onto whatever operators they want. And that is a huge advantage if you spot an operator like an Echo that has a really strong counter that they could switch onto.
Definitely, and we've started to see the repick. I don't know whether I'd say having a massive impact, but we see it starting to be played a lot. You know, we're seeing IQ was a great example that you had, where IQ was getting very little play in last stage, even a lot of last year in general. But already throughout stage 1, we're starting to see a lot more IQ picks come through because, yeah, it just feels a little bit more valuable when you know that you need to use that utility. You can bring that. Also, LMG meta. There's an LMG on IQ. That certainly helps as well. But yeah, no, I'm loving the addition of attacker picks so far.
thought for a minute Harambe was going to go garage. Not advisable when you've got diffuser and you're the primary hard breach. In fact, the only hard breach for this team. That does somewhat limit Harambe, because even if he wants to breach all of these hatches, he won't have much left for then the server wall and the default plant spot. But Direwolves here going for that map clear first and foremost, and it's not looking too difficult so far. In fact, I believe Fury have perhaps even everyone down on the site. Oh, no, you've got, wow, very heavy roam, in fact, but all on this first floor.
Yeah, and still all in positions as well where they could rotate back at the drop of a hat, like fairly quick. Not going to over-contest, overstay their welcome. I think the most important thing here for Direwolves is, of course, to continue to progress as quick as possible. Certainly a site that we've highlighted a lot with Bank, where you can't really delay yourself too much in this mid-round with a thing like a roam clear, because unless you're doing a lobby attack, you're going to need to be able to be prepared to bait out all that utility. So, for example, the 3 Toxic Babes, the Yokai, which they potentially don't even know exists, C4s, those kinds of things.
So let's reassess the progress from Direwolves. Taking a lot of this horizontal map control, and I'm fairly certain by these positions that Fury have in fact fully rotated back to site. Direwolves look quite aware of that. Already the red hatch pre-opened by the defenders. Now the A bomb site hatch follows suit, thanks to the Hibana, who's really making swift work of all these hatches. That said, the first casualty is one on the attacking side, however traded back. Is there still a roam present? Or where was that?
Yeah, didn't quite see exactly where Pika fell, but at least it was traded back for Direwolves so that they can keep that equal man count. But what's really important here is Direwolves are certainly signaling that this is not going to be the server clear or the server attack, execute. It's going to be all this lobby side. And that definitely does negate a little bit of that time element where you can execute a little bit later. Certainly wouldn't want to give it much though, because you still have to try and force your way and give access to site. So it's going to be very important for Spacehead. He needs to try and hold these players off as much as possible.
Walks straight into that crossfire though, and now his position revealed. Fantastic shot there from Jackie Wu in the elevator. Direwolves come to life. Dark now in the garage, the only player left for the Wolfpack. 1.5 times scope on the P10 Roni, and he can't get it done. Direwolves, as the plant goes down, can cover perfectly, and they've strung together 2 rounds in a row.
Fairly clean as well, honestly. Like, they're doing a really good job, even though they're being a little bit more careful than I'd say I've seen Direwolves be in the past with some of these kind of mid rounds. These executes are super clean. They're winning their gunfights. They're just doing a really great job at making it coordinated. I think it's the most important part or piece of the puzzle there, is that it's coordinated. You know, they're swinging this particular angles at the same time. So even if one of them loses, they're getting ready to trade. It sounds like basics, but at the end of the day, Direwolves are pulling that off fairly well. And it's very obvious why they're being able to win these rounds.
Yeah, and it seems great as well for Direwolves that instead of going for that really typical, oh, let's just plant server, let's play this baiting utility game for about 40 seconds. Instead of doing that, went for a rear side push, and as a result, instead of trying to force the plant down, they found openings and they exposed defender positions so that they got the man count, so that they could then go for a plant, and not in a way when Fury can then try and really heavily lean into the denial. So it seems like good countering and mid-round adaptations rather that we're seeing from Direwolves.
Absolutely, certainly a key mark of why they are one of the top teams in APAC South at the moment. I mean, they are at the top of the standings, fairly uncontested, and yes, they are certainly about to lock in what feels like a playoffs berth. So it's great to see them being able to flex that a little bit against Fury. First rounds, just, you know, write that one off. Don't think about that one.
Well, it was a rush, right? And it's funny to me
Yes.
that Fury, in fact, not looking to go back to staff room open area, just, oh no. Souffle, he just chopped the Twitch drone. We'll just pretend we didn't see that. It's funny to me that Fury not going back to the bomb site that they've won, probably aware that Direwolves threw that a little bit last time with the rush. And if Direwolves do go for their more slow and steady typical take, Fury wouldn't have too much luck. So instead going to the top floor, which we did see Direwolves win on the attack already.
And speaking of already, Direwolves have found that opening pick. It's a real quick one onto Dark. Now, I think he was probably the one in that hallway around stock. He had such an important role in at least giving Fury that look in. in the first attempt of this site. So with him dying, you can see already that Hajime has replaced, or Hajime is in this position regardless.
Uh-oh.
Certainly an important one, but yes, needs to get out of there. Otherwise, Direwolves are going to kind of run over the top of him.
That said, this has taken more utility than it did last time for Direwolves. Finker, Jackie Wu already out of nades. ED still has a flash, still some smokes. Peek is using his nades elsewhere. So they're not going to be used to clear out this position. Instead, hard breach. Oh, Jackie Wu doesn't need any projectiles. That's 2 picks already for Direwolves, and the avalanche continues to roll down this mountain and roll over FURY. 2 players left.
Definitely a big ask here for Spacehead and Lycolis, the 2 SAS defenders. They are fairly spread out as well, so it's not going to be about really trading each other at this stage, it looks like. It's going to be about just trying to hold their own. Lycolis certainly under fire. Spacehead tagged quite deep as well. And you can see that Direwolves just have such a great cut of that hallway. This is going to be so tough for FURY.
There's just Spacehead left, and he's meant to be the top fragger for this team. He's been given the FMG license on the smoke, but a 1v4 with Harambe getting that diffuser down on the ground. Spacehead absolutely clueless. Shot in the back of the head by ED, and that is a clean sweep for Direwolves. 3 attack rounds in a row, and they are looking brilliant.
Yeah, again, just super clean. Like, they're really working well together as a team, doing the steps that they need to be able to get through these attacks. And most importantly, also, they're really picking up these frags. Like, the opening pick coming out in that first 50 seconds was pretty crucial against the Wumai player, who can obviously have a big impact in how long the denial or the delay of taking stock trading in the hallway occurs. So, yeah, look, just a really good display from Direwolves so far. First half really feels like the momentum is firmly in their hands.
Well, FURY are going to go back to staff room open area as of yet. They haven't seen Direwolves slow and, I guess, for lack of a better word, proper attack onto this site, and perhaps are banking on that a little bit. To be frank, though, I don't have a lot of hope for them. I feel bad we're calling it so early, but I mean, FURY has really struggled so far in APAC South. They lost their first game to IG on this map, 7-3. Then they lost to Chiefs on Chalet 7-0. And then they lost to Knights on Villa 7-1 just 2 nights ago. They've only won, including this map right here, 5 rounds out of 3.5 games that they have played. Only 5 rounds.
Yes. No, look, the numbers don't lie, Dev. You're right. It's quite brutal. Ironically as well, I feel like the best match we saw them play was actually that first Playday game against IG, and it was kind of just downhill from there. They haven't really found much of a rhythm at all. So look, I'm super curious whether they can bring this one back. At the moment, it certainly doesn't feel like it, right? Like, Direwolves is just looking so clean, executing beautifully. I really have FURY's number at this stage, but you never quite know. This could turn around to be a 3-3 half, and it's certainly still a very winnable position for the map.
That's it. I mean, FURY know that they are so much better than this. Last year, under the banner of Q Confirmed, they were 5th place in every single stage, which means they didn't have to play relegation. Like, it was Order and Wildcard that went down there. So FURY, I mean, they are so much better than what they're showing here, averaging currently less than 2 rounds per match that they have played. Direwolves, of course, are not going to let them in. And if there's anywhere that FURY are likely to get points, it's probably not against the #1 team in the league right now.
Definitely seems unlikely. Almost halfway through the round now, Direwolves pushed in and taken some decent vertical control. Looks like Diffuser is over on that lobby side as well, so probably a clear coming in from the west side. They're very aware of this position in the elevator. Looks like it's Hajime. It certainly is. I want to try and clear this one out, but they have to be careful. Dark looming below, trying to assist with some kind of crossfire.
Jackie Wu on the cutoff. Well and truly, Hajime is stuck between a rock and a hard place. Droned out is now as well. A nade to come through. In fact, uncooked, simply to get him to move. Doesn't find him as of yet. Direwolves taking this very slow, very steady. When are they going to be able to finally take out this player?
Yeah, definitely dedicating a lot of time to this one, and at least the resources dedicated are still, you know, it's kind of necessary to the attack that they're trying to pull off anyway. But Hajime certainly persisting here. You know, a lot of players could have decided to make that drop And he hasn't, but Dark, he has been dropped by Jackie Wu now, so Direwolves have still been able to hunt and get that first pick. He was the one working on the lower main stairs. But Dev, just 40 seconds to go. Direwolves do need to start to kind of progress this a bit quicker.
And Hajime has fallen back. So opening pick for Direwolves once again, but it's going to take a lot to turn that into a round win. Hajime downstairs, liking the idea of flanking up Lycolas, the main player on site to hold. Souffle, oh, gonna hit him with a nade. Lycolas caught from the window. 15 seconds now. Time ticking away, but Direwolves have the opening. Mopey on the flank, Hajime as well. And Jackie Wu has to force this plant down. It's on Hajime and ED to cover. The newest player on the team steps up. Now traded back. It's all on the sub for Fury to try and clutch this 1 versus 2 semi 1v3 with Harambe on the ground, but no adrenal surge from the Finker to put him back on his feet. It's on Mopey. Just about no health left remaining. And just about no information on where these players may be. Jackie Wu can finish him off. And Direwolves, every time they leave it late, you can bet your bottom dollar that they are still going to make it worth it.
Yeah, still a good result for Direwolves, of course, and off the back of, again, just some very coordinated plays. Some unfortunate timing on the side of Fury as well, like Hollis is getting caught on a rotate and also completely unaware that there was a player at that printer window. So he kind of lost his life a little cheap in that final moment, and it also meant that Harambe on the Hibana could jump in. I think he got a 2K, and that was fairly impactful because it really stunted the denial possibility from Fury. And of course, at that point, it was all on Paul Mopey's shoulders. But once again, Direwolves barreling forward with a lot of momentum here. 4-1 lead, looking to track down a 5-1 half. And Fury have gone back to this site. They're feeling like this has been probably their best shot at it. And honestly, that round definitely felt like their best shot.
Yeah, that said, you've got to give Direwolves some credit here and assume that while they were slow, like they're only going to get faster at clearing these positions. One thing that really stands out to me, and I'm interested to get your take on it, Fury is quite known to be an aggressive team, a team that backs in their fraggers, like players like Pika, always keen to just peek, as his name may suggest. But Direwolves so far, like you look at that previous round, the defender and elevator, they didn't just try and push on down. They didn't try and just shoot him and take the fights, right? Like they were, okay, we're going to open every single line of sight. We're going to pinch him. We're going to expose him. It's like Direwolves don't actually want to take any 1v1 fights at all.
Yeah, look, definitely a bit of a change of philosophy from their play, and all here for it. You know, they had a pretty good year last year regardless with the way that they were playing, and it certainly was quite intimidating, but you know that that's potentially not sustainable, right? You have to be able to have multiple modes. Some of the best teams we see in other regions or globally in general, they have those multiple modes. They can switch it on and be just like insane aggressive, but they can also play very structured and very coordinated. So look, I think it's been a really good switch here for Direwolves in stage 1 of this year. It looks like their off-season has been very productive in the way that they've kind of molded their team play.
Yeah, no doubt. Extended upstairs, hold for Fury, pretty easily dismissed by Direwolves. The Golden Six making short work of the shield. Pika face checking on the top floor. Alibi Prismas, I mean, that's all of Alibi's utility. The shield and the 3 Prismas dealt with in 1 minute and 10 seconds. So nullifying a lot of what Hajime has brought to the table. Direwolves, I feel like have we just rewinded the VOD 1 minute or something, Raven? Like we're just back where we were last round.
Look, in a way that's actually super impressive, right? Like it's one thing to be able to execute these like fairly well in one go, but to be so consistent that it looks like it's almost exactly the same round. I'd say that's fairly impressive from Direwolves. At the same time though, Fury certainly need to try and change something up here. This phase of the last round, honestly, I guess went okay, but they need to rely on less about the time denial. I think they need to kind of get in the face of Direwolves a little bit. But I think what's really impressive about Direwolves is that, as we've kind of been identifying, always really watching each other's backs, always covering and ensuring they can't get in a position that's advantageous.
And they're just playing so well. The way he used the flashbang and peeked up, checked every single corner. The information flows like a river for Direwolves. And they have absolutely no issues steering their way upstream. Definitely doesn't feel like it's been a challenge so far with 40 seconds left. A man advantage once again on their side before the execute.
Oh, that's just unfortunate. Spacehead kind of caught looking away at the wrong time. 5 versus 3. It's certainly going to be tough for Fury to hold this one off. That being said, Hajime has a great position here with some good trigger discipline. He's been able to catch ED. 20 seconds to go on the execute. 3v3 now, Dev.
Oh, this may well be doable. Mopey, gotta get out of dodge, gotta deny the plant. He does so! The super sub for a double. Now a 1 versus 2 for Harambe, and Lycolis is there to finish him off. It could have been 5 rounds in a row for Direwolves, but Fury finally show us some flashes of greatness.
Really good from Fury on that one. And look, you've got to rate the identification that they felt like this site was the one clicking the most for them. Of course, they did win round 1 off the failed rush from Direwolves, but it definitely was their closest attempt. And here they were able to turn it around. A huge play from Mopey to really save that one. Direwolves were about to face a really positive post-plant situation. But no, Fury salvaged the half 2-4. Look, manageable position, I'd say.
Yeah, these days, considering how strong the attacking side can be, with attacker repick, with the nature of Bank not being a particularly defender-sided map, and with Hibana on the table, yeah, I'd reckon Fury would be pretty decently happy with a 4-2. Now they move on to their attacking side, and this is really where they get tested, especially playing with Mopey, subbing in for Producer Boom. This is when we really have to see Fury's initiation, their calling, their team play come to fruition and be at their peak, because if not, Direwolves will really ramp up this pressure and pick them apart.
Absolutely will. And I think the thing that concerns me just a little bit as we switch halves is, you know, Bank has been fairly balanced. Like, I'm looking back at the APAC South stats for the entire stage 1 so far. We've seen a lot of plays. It's been played 4 times already. In fact, the most played map in the league so far. 55% overall defense win rate. And, you know, that's not particularly outlandish, especially when you start looking at some of the other stats. I won't reel out those numbers, but it's certainly the most balanced map so far of what we've seen in stage 1. So, look, I think that bodes well in a one-way for Fury. But, of course, on attack, that's where you kind of flex your coordination as a team, and just unfortunately it's just not what we've seen from Fury at this point.
Couple red flags then. Bit of uncertainty as well, perhaps from Fury. An unusual claim, or I don't think I've ever seen anyone jump out of that window. Must mean Mopey wants to repel here, but you'd think he could be shot even without destroying that claymore if he's on the repel. Oh, this is really where we're going to test Fury. We saw how good Direwolves were at clearing out this position with the shield. Let's see what Fury have got to show for us.
3 players dedicated to this as well, and of course, we talked about it before, there is a bit of a utility dump required to be able to clear out that position.
My.
Harambe with huge C4. That's certainly going to hinder it, because that is the person that had the frag grenades that he took out of that little cluster at the window.
That is actually unreal. And with that, delay of time, Jackie Woo's magnets are slowly regenerating. Any ADS is present, which I believe there is still one, will also be regenerating. So Fury have not only lost those grenades, but also wasted those flashes that they sent in.
Yeah, this is that is definitely a significant thing to have occurred for Fury's attack now. It's going to delay them a lot. It really puts them on the back foot. And now they do only have a minute to go. At the same time, as we've seen there, picked up by our wonderful observer, Mandy, that there is still a player lurking off-site. It is Souffle. But look, it's a good trade from Spacehead.
Yeah, look, Harambe, don't really know what the play was there. Souffle, like you said, roaming off-site. Droned out, though. Oh, it could have done so much damage had he not been spotted. Ooh, Jackie Woo doesn't have as much to protect him as perhaps he thought, and he does find himself flashed. Lycolis also, rather, Souffle taken down by Spacehead, and I mean, this is looking not so bad now for Fury.
Yeah, certainly maybe a little premature there from Souffle, but Fury with a man advantage coming into this final 30 seconds. They are pretty well set up for this execute.
Oh, what a trade there. Spacehead might have lost his life, but he has got Mopey on the long angle. It's all Jackie Woo now. We've seen him hit some gnarly clutches so far, but it's not going to be that way this time around. And Fury have built up a little bit of momentum here, Raven. They find themselves only 1 round behind.
That's what you want, and you look, that's why the 2-4 deficit isn't all that scary, I guess, at the end of the day. I think what is just so important about that round is not only did they end up winning it in what looks like a fairly clean affair in the end, they actually faced a pretty bad position when they lost that first pick, the opening to that C4. It was the Yana, it was the frag player. They were going to have trouble clearing out the player around the shield. They're outside Stock and Janitor. But even with that, and even with the time delay, they still managed to pull out a really great execute. So I think that is a huge pat on the back for Fury. And maybe it could be a turning point in this match.
It would be huge for Fury, the bottom team in the league, to take down Direwolves, the top team in the league. Yeah, we're only 3 play days in, but considering that Fury had averaged 2 rounds per match up until this game right here, I mean, they've already exceeded that. In fact, this is the scoreline. Well, 7-3 is the scoreline that they lost to Invictus on this map. Well, they've already met par for the course as of their most recent bank result, right? So let's see if they can take us a bit further. To be honest, Raven, I'm starting to back them in a little bit. And look at all these repicks coming through. Finka, Ossa, Yana, and Nomad.
Definitely some interesting repicks there, and I wonder if that calls out that they have identified something in particular that calls for a very particular strategy. Now, I'm not sure if it is going to be this, but we did see that also used beautifully by Chiefs on the last Playday, where they did a very quick direct execute onto the Locus or CC site, and they just planted behind one of those shields just in the first minute, right? And it worked beautifully. So maybe they thought that there was potential opening, something similar. It doesn't look like that's what they're going to be playing it like.
Yeah, I mean, I love that idea, and I love the creativity, and I love the attacker repicks. The only thing I'm concerned for Fury is the lack of Hibana here. I mean, you're attacking the basement, Kaida's band. To me, it's a bit of a question, like, why don't you? The only way I would imagine they don't want to pick Hibana is if they're not intending to roam clear or open the hatches at all, if they just want to go for a straight server push. But that's not telegraphed by how they're playing it, so color me confused.
Yeah, this is definitely a little confusing, but here we go. They're starting to do this direct kind of push in through server. Certainly not as quick as we saw when Chiefs kind of did this, seemingly this play. But look, there is 4 Fury players stacked here, so they are not interested in really progressing this anywhere else. Just going to go direct, and it certainly is doable if that hatch is closed on CC. And execute here is just going to be about holding this clean and letting the planter get it down. Look, I can see it working.
Love the idea here. It all comes down to the execution by Fury. A lot of plant denial from Direwolves. Look at that. The Tachanka, who now equips the Shamikas and sends it out. You got so much info on Pika, plus a C4, another C4 on ED, plus the ability to look through smokes. Not to mention the Yokais, of which I believe 1 still resides. Fury took out 1 in server, but so much util for them to deny this plant.
Actually is, and it's good denial for this too. They're really going to be able to hold this off for quite a long time. And it comes through the C4, doesn't hit the mark. Direwolves need to be careful, I guess, not to burn particularly C4s too early, because that is really all they have to counter those Ossa shields. But Jackie Wu has managed to get a pick with the Shumika. ED backs it up. Unfortunately for Fury, that's it's going to sting a bit.
And this is just the absolute beauty of this plant denial, not to mention Harambe on the top floor. Fury finally find 1 pick as ED goes down, over peaking perhaps a little bit too much, but there is still so much plant denial left. Assuming that Yokai is on the board, Pika still has a C4 and Harambe on for this flank too. 15 seconds left. Hajime knows about the flank, but Harambe doesn't feel the need to push as of yet. Spacehead can find another pick, making this a nigh even scoreline. Pika has to play for info, and it calls the players going deep inside. Jackie Wu! He steps up, he doesn't need the fire, he's got this LMG, and he lands both of those headshots to clean up Fury.
It's really good from Direwolves in the end to not panic too much when they saw that Fury had kind of gone that direct attack nice and early. Lots of time on the clock to burn things out. I felt like Fury, there was a point there where I felt like they were about to make it work. But I think what really was the nail in the coffin for them was the pulse in gold. I'm not sure whether Fury had any idea that existed, but they just had so much info, so it held Direwolves back from burning too much utility too quick. They always had tabs on whether there was a player going for plants or how many of them were there, and if they go deep, all that jazz. So really great job. Jackie Wu as well, very solid on the Tachenka. Didn't really waste his Shumika and managed to pick up a bunch of kills as well.
It's funny how times have changed, Raven. That was a fantastic plant denial hold of Locker's CCTV without even a smoke. Without even a smoke. Usually the fundamental operator to defend that, but Jackie Wu decided that Tachenka was more variable. And I mean, paired with the Yokais of the Echo, the info from the Pulse, like you said, and even Warden, he found 1 or 2 kills with. It was a beautiful sight to behold.
10 seconds left.
Yeah, it was really great from Direwolves. And I think importantly as well, look, Fury had actually built a bit of momentum there. So I think that was a really important one for Direwolves, just to keep it in check. Because if Fury obviously had won that, we would be looking at a 4-4 scoreline. Suddenly it's tied. Suddenly Fury won multiple rounds in a row. Suddenly it feels winnable. So for Direwolves to be able to pull out that stop, get another one back, and edge closer to match point, just I think super critical at the stage it was at.
Well, as for this round, Fury will try their luck at winning CEO. They've done it once before. But Direwolves, instead of moving to a tertiary site as of yet, we'll retry this one. And having a look, for the most part, I think we're seeing a very similar defensive setup. The Echo, the Arini, the Wamai, and the Mute were there before. It's the Pulse that is the special ingredient this time around.
Yep, and here it is again. Jackie Wu trying to hold this hallway, and the onslaught of utility coming their way. Even the Yokai is there for the info, sending out a stun to try and just slow down Fury. But they're doing a really great job, actually, burning all this utility, just dealing with all the pain that's coming their way. And they've been able to open up this wall with the Selmas, clear out the shield. Jackie Wu's had to retreat back towards main stairs, and that's a nice, pretty efficient first-minute clear.
It is, and it's making Fury look really good on this site once again. Maybe a bit stubborn from Direwolves not to bring that Jaeger. Second time in a row, they're trying to hard hold that position without a Jaeger, and it's just not cutting it. Fury now, though, in a strong position to start catching up once again with the Direwolves. It's still a 5v5, but good progress has been made in this round.
Definitely has. Looking good from Fury so far. Still a lot of siege ahead of us, though, in the rounds. Some pretty important steps to achieve, and they're certainly careful about a potential roam. Now, it was Souffle last time on the Mozzie. He's not reprised that this time. He's gone to the Pulse, and Mopey is going to take out Jackie Wu. Just walks right into the gun sight of Mopey, and that's certainly going to help Fury's prospects of this round.
Fantastic opening pick. We've seen Fury win this bomb site without that opening pick before. So even further advantage than we've seen in the past. Direwolves, what are you going to do about this? Because it's just a matter of time before Fury prepares something.
Definitely is. But they look really well set up. Hajime is certainly going to be critical on this one. Harambe too in the Janitors. It's going to be big for Direwolves if he's able to swing onto a potential plant denial here. So that is a position that will have to be dealt with. And now in this 25-second mark, Fury have a bit of pressure to try pull this one off.
Fury, the time is ticking away. Souffle's below. No. This could completely pick apart the defense, and Direwolves clean up thanks to the info. ED is just nuts. Mopey, the last man standing. And, well, he's got so much to do. It's absolutely hopeless for him. Fury, they looked so good. But at the final hurdle, they stacked it. They fluffed it, and Direwolves have found match point.
Yeah, look, super unfortunate for Fury. It felt like there was going to be an attempt at that execute, or the plant, I should say, but no, they didn't account for that pulse below. Really well played from Direwolves. I think credit to Souffle being super patient. You know, I don't think he had a massive amount of impact with his info until like that last 20, 30-second mark as they all started to stack up for the plant. And you saw it as soon as we switched to the pulse. He was calling out those positions. They just dropped like flies. It was insane. Just again, really great teamwork from Direwolves, and just an unfortunate mishap from Fury. Just kind of pushed this match back out of reach.
I mean, when you've got the pulse below calling the exact positions, the exact moment that the attackers push in, that's when the fraggers really shine, right? Behind every good entry fragger is the support player calling out the positions. And look, I'll also mention that it was Souffle who previously played Mozzie and went for that flank downstairs, which didn't work out. what a fantastic idea for him to six-pick, oh, not six-pick, but instead change his pick. I'm going to keep getting caught up on that. But he chose the Pulse instead. We saw the impact of that utility. Now, FURY, a lot of pressure is mounting. If FURY lose this round, and therefore lose in regulation, they have a less than 1% probability of making it to the playoffs. In contrast, Direwolves have a 99% probability of making it to the playoffs. So this round has a lot riding on it.
Yeah, big stakes, I guess, in both courts. I think it's a bit rough for FURY that Direwolves have been able to build up a bit of momentum after those last couple of round victories as well. I think that last round will in particular sting for FURY, but either way, they have to move on. Direwolves have gone to the open area site now. This is the first time, in fact, that we're seeing this defended in this half for Direwolves. So FURY not only seeing it fresh, it's their last chance to keep the game alive.
A scary prospect for the Thai team. Slow and steady, we're finally seeing a Dockerby as well. Potentially for that roam clear. FURY just look a little bit slow, a little bit indecisive. A minute down, that's a third of the round gone. And still, I don't believe we've got a single FURY player in the building. Spacehead finally breaks on through and can get to work on the vertical game. But I'm really concerned here, Raven, about the time management.
Yup. Also, that C4 kind of really missed the mark. Bit of a guess, I'd say, from Direwolves on that one. But yeah, look, 90 seconds in. FURY need to start getting a little bit of pressure more towards Direwolves at this stage. You can see there's still a lot of outlines over towards the elevator side. And FURY certainly can't just bank on dropping Hatch in through stock and just trying to get a plant easy that way. Takes a little bit more prep than that.
We haven't seen many 5v5 execute go the way of FURY, have we now? It was Direwolves who somewhat specialized in that on this bomb site. Finally some progress now for FURY, but still not a single pick as of yet. On match point for Direwolves, the pressure is mounting for FURY. Yet to find a single point on the scoreboard in APAC South. And they have 50 seconds to try and change that.
Oh, they're going to get an open pick there. Spacehead, really well timed. He's going to take out Jackie Wu. And now there is a bit of pressure starting to come over on the northeast corner there. ED knows it's not safe for him. He's going to try and go back on the other side of the wall.
Ooh, here's something.
Hajime is backed up for Harambe. Now, Pika, this is an important position. You're right, but 30 seconds to go. FURY do have the upper hand at this point.
I believe a logic bomb may be coming out. There you go. Ooh, no, that was perhaps a hunt down of the defender cameras, which have now been accessed by the attacking squad, thanks to Hajime picking the Dockerby. So it's a huge amount of info, but 15 seconds left. FURY seem to make good on it. Souffle, he's got to come up big. It's a 1 versus 4 with less than 10 seconds on the scoreboard. Lycol is forcing that plant down, and easily FURY can cover it. Souffle goes down, and FURY will keep themselves alive just a little bit longer.
They do, and that was just a great round in general from FURY. Look, there are definitely some concerns about the time and the pressure that a lot of extra denial now. But yeah, no, like they had it super clean last time. I think in particular having Pika on that pulse, I would assume to be in gold. That really was kind of the linchpin last time for Direwolves.
10 seconds left.
I'll tell you right now, I would not want to be attacking against this lineup from Direwolves. You've got the Jaeger to protect the anchors, and then you've got all of the anchors, the Shanka and the smoke to burn out time and prevent that default plant. You got Pika to call for all the info, and of course the Echo is another last line of defense to try and deny that plant if need be, as well as get some info, because that's really the other thing that that Direwolves will be banking on. The Echo and the Pulse for that information. Makes me wonder whether FURY will take a gamble and go for that rear side push, that lobby, the vault push that we saw work so well for Direwolves when they attacked.
Something on FURY's side as well is they've actually brought the Habana this time. That was something that you kind of highlighted a little bit last time with the Lockers attack, is that they didn't have that Habana. So it really just... it pushed them into only being able to do that one thing. And look, that's fine. If you have a very set strat in mind, go for it. But this is certainly going to provide some more flexibility for them. They'll be able to open up more hatches, and just in general, they'll have an opportunity to pivot their attack if whatever they thought they were going to be able to do looks like it's going to go awry. So I like that change to bring the Habana.
Dial's going for a full anchor setup despite a bit of a roam setup, it seems. Rotation holes, top floor hatch reinforcements. But reinforcing a lot of hatches here for Direwolves means that Fury will be very thankful they have this Hibana, but they're still going to have to be a bit careful. And, not an infinite number of X-Kairos, and each hatch requires 4 of these pellets. Only has 18, which does limit his ability. See, you can only get 1 more hatch now after already opening those 3. Surely this is going to have to be... Oh, the side hatch has already been opened as well. I've got to say, Raven, this does look like Fury might be tempted to go for the rear push.
Feels like it. And Mopi also progressing deep with the Ossa, but Souffle, he's actually deeper than normal. He's going to go in for the pick onto the feet. Fortunately, he didn't hit too many of those shots. Did at least get a drone. It's a backup attacker here as well, so it looks like Fury really want this. They really want to try and take this garage control. And look at that rotate from ED over with the smoke. Mopi is going to have to push through. Time's starting to really decay against Fury at this point.
And another gas comes through as well from ED. Fury are really banking on this garage push working. Souffle goes down. What a huge pick. That is the Yokais off the board. Dark and Mopi now have to make good on this garage control as the aggressive push comes through from Fury. Hajime finds one, and Jackie Wu is out of the game. Direwolves, though, fight back. A 3 versus 3. 15 seconds left on the clock, and it's a desperate moment for Fury as they try and stave off the match point and the win for Direwolves, but the crossfires, they're too good, and Direwolves can close the game. GG comes out in chat, and the team at the top of the standings will extend their lead and now lock in APAC playoffs.
Great game in the end from Direwolves, but I think a really good last round. I think that last round showed a lot of the really big positive sides of